Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Friday's webinar from Anicca Digital. It's myself, Anne Stanley. I'm the founder and CTO, and I've got my guest speaker and co-director, Darren Wynn's joining us. So we're doing a bit of an AI double act. And today what we're going to be doing is we're introducing a whole load of webinars which relate to our AIGust, which I still can't pronounce. It looks great when you write it down. But we've got a series of 4 webinars coming up every Wednesday in August from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And this is the introduction, and you're going to learn something new today. So if you could imagine what you can learn in 1 hour, what we're going to cover you today compared with what we're going to cover over the month, then I think you're going to find it very interesting. So a bit of housekeeping from us. There is some handouts. You can go and pick them up top right. Darren's going to, if you can start sharing your slides, Darren. We will be videoing this, so you'll get that later. And I think it's time for me to pass over to Darren. I can see the screen.
So you got it.
Good. I'm going to turn my mic off just for the first bit, and then I'll turn it back on again because I've just got a couple of things I've got to type.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anne. Wow, welcome everyone. So this is going to be a bit of we're going to play it flexible today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about prompting, some of the things I've learned through my, what is it now, 2 years plus using AI across a variety of different tools. So I'm going to talk a bit about prompting. This is actually a presentation that I've kind of customized from a session that I did with our staff internally. So we'll go through prompting for probably about 20 minutes, and then we'll move on to vibe coding and Copilot. The order in which we do that is again quite flexible, so it depends what you guys want to see first. If we go with vibe coding first, then Anne will take over and do a live demo of vibe coding. She's done a lot of work at the moment with certain tools that she's used. If you want to do Copilot, then I will probably today, because this is an intro to AIGust, which I'll talk about in just a second, I'll probably just do a brief intro to Copilot, and we'll go through the process of agent building in Copilot Studio. Really simple platform, anyone can use it. So I'll show you where to find that, how to create your first agent there. And if you use things like Microsoft a lot in your role and in your business, and you use things like Teams, then it just becomes even more powerful because you can connect them up that way and utilize it in a variety of different ways. So mini agent building session, bit of vibe coding, but we'll start with some prompting. As Anne said, I don't know whether to call it AIGust or AIGust. It's a bit of a thinker, but we're going to be running sessions throughout August on a variety of different subjects in the world of AI. So we'll go into more depth on things like prompting, again, vibe coding. We'll do some answer some questions around AI, a bit more of a kind of open forum discussion around various different subjects. First one's going to be on Wednesday the 6th, and then we've got Wednesday the 13th, which I'm actually not going to be here for. I'm going to be in Norway at that point, but then I'll be back for the 20th and the 27th. So Anne will do the one on the 13th. So if you're interested in today and you want to find out more information, or you feel there's questions that haven't been answered, specific sessions running through August on a Wednesday that will be able to answer those types of things. So like I said, today we'll go through prompting. We'll just go through the basics of it today, stuff I've learned through the 2 years that I've used it. There is a lot of difference in knowledge that people have around prompting, but what I see quite often is there's a lot of frustration that builds around using AI platforms. So this should help answer some of the questions, at least with why we're frustrated, and help hopefully get some better answers out of AI. Copilot, and we'll do an agent build exercise, and then we'll go through vibe coding, and then there's some other additions. There's something really cool that's happened in ChatGPT in the last sort of week, and I've got a little example of how that works to show you as well. And then anything else you've got, any questions, please do ask. I've pinned it in the chat, and we'll be able to answer those as well. So about 20 minutes on prompting then. I started by asking myself the question, why do people struggle to get good responses out of chat models? And I think there's a couple of different reasons for it. I think there's generally this expectation that AI is intelligent and that it should be able to get the context of the questions that we're asking it. And that tends to lead into this sense of a little bit of laziness that comes into it. When we go on ChatGPT, we tend to shoot a question at it, and it's usually one sentence or a couple of sentences, and then we expect the answer back. Sometimes that's okay, and I'll talk around different types of prompting and examples where that is a good way to do things. And sometimes that's not okay because you're not giving it enough context, and therefore you get unexpected results out, or results that are not what you want to see. Generally, across the people that I've kind of observed using AI models, there's this vague prompting. We're not asking the right questions. Maybe we're not structuring prompts quite well enough. And we'll go through how to combat that today, and how to structure our questions better in order to get more information out of AI. And sometimes AI just misses the point entirely. If the prompt isn't structured well enough, or we don't enter that refinement process of making sure we're asking the right questions, it's going to shoot off on a tangent and answer the wrong question, or go down a rabbit hole. And then before we know it, we're trying to catch up to it, give it the right information to get the answers that we want. But most of this stuff starts with improper prompting for the output that we want to see. So I asked the question, has anyone ever been frustrated with AI? We actually have. So I've got my own personal paid version of ChatGPT. We've also got versions of Claude and ChatGPT that we use for work. So I see when I go into ChatGPT, there's a load of different chats that happen on the left-hand side, which you can see, and sometimes you can see people getting frustrated by not trying to get the right answers out. And if you've ever felt any of these things, let me get my laser pointer out. So if you've ever been frustrated with the responses, if you just get that feeling that ChatGPT or Claude just doesn't get it doesn't get what I'm asking it, or you end up going down rabbit holes, or even worse, if you found yourself arguing with this AI model trying to get the right response out, it can be really, really frustrating. It can be even more frustrating when you ask a question and it comes back and the answer's incorrect, so you try and correct it, and then it comes back and it's all triumphant and it says, okay, I've done it now. And then you look through the answer and it's not what you wanted at all. And you enter this doom loop of trying to post fact correct the prompt or the question that we had initially to try and get a better answer out of it. But some of these issues might be familiar to you if you've ever used AI and been frustrated by what it's producing for you. So I've got a little quiz. Two types of content here that I've got. Which one do you think, A or B, has been written by AI? If you can put answers in the chat quickly, if I give you a second to read it. And then just put A or B, which one do you think AI wrote? And maybe you can give me a shout out as to. Any answers coming in?
I forgot my mic was off. Loads of A's.
Loads of A's. Yeah, not a surprise. So when we prompt AI to create content for us without any context, we tend to get quite rigid answers, quite wooden answers out of it. Generally, the reason why that is because it's using a lot of punctuation, grammar. It uses quite cringy phrases sometimes, like let's lock in some times. You can see the use of grammar is almost perfect. The spelling's always perfect, these types of things. As a result, the content that is produced doesn't feel human. And when people are using this for content, maybe on blogs or they just want to respond to a complex or difficult email and just get some pointers, they end up thinking, well, ChatGPT or Claude. Claude's actually better, but AI models in general are not very good at producing content. Now, I've tricked everyone a little bit, and some people might have noticed what I've done. Both of these were written by AI, but using different prompts. So this is a lead into what I'm talking about today. So I'll show you the prompts I used for both. First of all, A. So this is the prompt I used to get the content in. A. Write an email to a friend about our weekend plans. Really broad, no context there, just write an email. And what it produced, as I said, is quite a stiff piece of content on, it made up the details. I just filled in the gaps like 11 a.m., but otherwise it's just as it produced it. Piece of content that you would kind of expect AI to produce. I'm surprised actually that it hadn't stuck any emojis in there. I think it's kind of moved away from that. But someone once said, if you see a rocket emoji in a piece of content, you can almost guarantee that AI's written it. But there's a number of points that stick out there that just goes to show AI's produced this piece of content. The prompt for B, which it might not be perfect, but it kind of starts to feel a little bit more human. It's using improper grammar, which I think is more human. It's toned down the comedy in quotes that it's decided to use. It's using short form, so I think there's a though in there somewhere, THO, the app there. Dot, 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 these types of things just make it flow a bit easier. The prompt for B looks like this, and in fact, that's like half of it. I couldn't put it all on the slide, but it would be silly to put any more in because you wouldn't be able to read it.
And that's one of the advantages of a custom GPT or Claude, is that you can, particularly with a custom GPT, is you can train it to have all that information behind the scenes. And then, so if this is the style of how you want to write a blog, you have all that saved with all your examples of your good ones, any brand guidelines, any tone of voice. And then you just say, write me a blog about AI in e-commerce. And it's got all that information behind it. Whereas if you were writing a blog on AI and e-commerce and you were just going into ChatGPT or Claude, you'd have to copy all this in every time. And so it's almost like you've got a recipe book or a manual behind the scenes, which is one of the major reasons why we love projects and custom GPTs in OpenAI, because of that, remembering these prompts that you've created.
100%. Yeah, that's right. Now, this type of prompting is markdown prompting, and I'll go into that in a little bit. And I've even got a custom GPT which you can use, which will create your own custom markdown prompting. You can see the amount of context and instruction that's gone into creating content, which is how I want it. And this is starting to get to the point of where simple prompts give simple outputs, or not maybe the output that we expected. Whereas longer prompts, I'm covering more bases and filling more gaps in where the AI might decide to just use its own creativity or its own decision making to come up with a piece of content. And you can see things in here that I've specifically told AI to do. And by the way, I'm not sure if we're going to get into custom GPTs today.
No.
But there is a section where you can add knowledge sources or documents to it. And although this is in itself quite lengthy, I've also, in addition to this, there's a comment somewhere, it might be off the page, where it says examples of previous content can be found in the resources. And in the resources, I've got a 50-page Word doc where I've taken out all of the material that I don't want to share with ChatGPT, which is a whole other thing that we shouldn't be doing. But basically content that I've written to help train the GPT model on my tone of voice and the style that I use. So it's got that additional resource when it's creating things. But some of the key things in here that I've asked it to do: don't use any phrases that GPTs tend to like to use. Use dry humor, because that's my style. Don't use correct grammar. In fact, use incorrect grammar. I think I've mentioned that twice. Don't use apostrophes. Use commas infrequently. All of these things help tailor the content to the type of output that I want. So I heard this analogy a while back, and I think it's quite a good one. It's probably better ones out there, but the AI is like a puppy, and we need to train that puppy on how to give the answers that we want. AI doesn't naturally understand us. It doesn't understand the context of what we're asking it. It is very knowledgeable, by which I mean it's trained on almost, at this point, all the data that it can from across the internet, but it's not always that clever in the sense of how we as humans understand context and other things. It doesn't necessarily know that just from an initial quick prompt that we type in. And it lacks that shared human context and subtlety that we have. Now, I like this analogy because I created an image on ChatGPT, two people training their dog, and I just love this image because these two people look so happy training their dog, and the dog could not care less about what they're doing, looking the other way. Yeah, so we want to ask the right questions. We want to train it through really clear, context-rich instructions. And we need to remember that AI is a machine. It's built on code. It's built on relationships between words and information. And that's really important to remember with LLMs and AI, because they communicate to us like a human would, and intentionally so. I mean, these tools in part give us a fake sense of intelligence by talking to us like a person would. It's part of what gives it that wow factor of feeling like it's intelligent. But behind that, it's just ones and zeros. AI doesn't understand us. It mimics that understanding by trying to generate responses based on the data sets that it has. And that causes conflict for us because we end up talking to it like a human. And that leads to confusion because we're not talking to it like we're talking to a machine. We're talking to it like a human. So we don't give it the clear instructions. And as a result, we don't get the right kind of outputs as a result. It needs that additional context in order to make the right answers. I'll give an example here. I tried to think of an example. This is probably as good as I got in the time I had. Let's say if you're sitting and if someone's sitting next to an open window and you say to that person, "God, it's cold in here," that person might take that social cue to then close a window. If an AI was sitting next to a window, you may get an answer that you want, but you might not. You might have to say specifically, "Please, can you close that window because it's cold in here?" Otherwise, the AI might sit next to that open window and start talking about how, temperature and the average temperature in the UK and all these types of things. It's worth mentioning that AI also has bias, and there are guardrails now in place, and we'll go through guardrails in just a second and types of things that it does. But AI systems are over-reliant on pre-existing patterns in data, and they reinforce a lot of bias that exists in our society, but more specifically within the people that build these tools. So regardless of the guardrails that people put in, there's going to be some of that bias that filters through. And now images is the best way to show this because it's very visual and we can see it, but there's also bias that can slip through in text form or any other format that AI produces, and those can be a lot more difficult to spot sometimes. And this also goes for hallucinations and incorrect data. We call it the kind of human AI sandwich, where you start as a human, you give it that context-rich prompt for the question that you want to ask it. It then provides the answer, and then we check that, make sure it's correct. That's really important, especially for if you're producing content, or if you're even worse, producing financial stuff, or you want to produce a legal document. No one yet would feel comfortable, and rightly so, in asking it to produce a legal document and then taking that legal document and going, that's good, and then just handing it over. You have to check it. And that's why when it comes to AI in the workplace at the moment, it's something I've talked about before. AI is not here at this point, and in the near future, certainly not, to replace people like legal professionals, because if you have that backing of skill set and you're using AI, you're kind of like supercharged. You can create more, you can do more. You still need that experience in order to check the results and make sure they're right. It goes for coding, anything. But yeah, I did some examples to try and show this bias in effect. I did 3 examples. First one, show me an image of a smart person. Now we've got I've used 2 different AI platforms for this. and I used 2 different paid accounts on both to try and get these results. So I tried to get a fair reflection. Now I can put money on the fact that if you asked it to show an image of a smart person, they will be wearing glasses. Most likely they will be wearing some sort of...
See, I'm much more intelligent than you then, Darren, because I've got glasses. Don't worry, as soon as you get to 40, you have to wear glasses because your eyes get buggered. So it's okay. When you get to 40, you'll be more intelligent.
And even in other platforms, this one up here, similar prompts, got one out again. Show me an image of a disabled person. Well, we know disabilities come in a variety, in different forms. But I could again put money on the fact that if you ask an AI model to show you an image of a disabled person, you will put that person in a wheelchair. Show me an image of a CEO, likely that person is going to have CEO floating somewhere around them, maybe in neon lights behind them, maybe on a plaque in front of them. They will most likely be in a suit, and 8 times out of 10, they'll probably again be in glasses. And you can see with all of these, all male, all white. So you can start to see the bias that's filtering through in these things. Now, AI has started to put guardrails in place for certain types of prompts. And the reason why it does this is to ask the individual to enhance their prompt and do a better prompt in order to ensure that they get the image and the response out that they want. It's a good example of where AI actually pushes the user to say, actually, your prompt's not good enough or detailed enough for us to be able to provide an answer. Can you confirm these details before we go ahead and jump into making it? Now, it's not always going to prompt you to do this. The reason why it does it is because of that lack of information in the prompt itself, but also because maybe the AI platforms are aware that there's bias within its training materials, and it doesn't want to necessarily show that bias in the images, so it's trying to guardrail that and say we need more information before we provide it. Now you can still bypass that. You can say nope, just produce an image, and it'll go ahead and produce an image. But you can see here it's starting to ask for things. Do you want it realistic? Do you want it cartoon? What kind of gender, age, ethnicity do you want in that image, so that then we can go and produce it. So prompting is just about asking the right questions. As AIs become more knowledgeable, it becomes increasingly important to prompt things in the right way and to ask the right questions to get the right kind of information out. There is tons of prompting techniques, and in the name of time today, I'm not going to go through them because there's just so many. I think what we'll do when we do the first session on Wednesday, we'll maybe go through a couple of these. We'll ask for feedback on what works well for people. There's different names and conventions for these things as well. They're not always called this, but they're starting to surface as some examples. I'm starting to naming conventions for different prompting. The one I used at the start is called markdown prompting. That's where you give the AI a role. You are a legal professional. You give it the context. You tell it exactly how many words it should be writing. Any details that you want, any context that you want in that, you put in the prompt, and you put it under specific headings, so it knows, okay, that's my role, that's the job I've got to do, that's how I've got to do it.
My favorite is something called Co-Star, which is to do with context, and interestingly, it's just completely made. I just go and asked a question. I couldn't remember what all the Co-Star stood for, and it's just made up a load of other stuff in ChatGPT. So I've just seen some good hallucination this morning. So it's context, objective, situation, tasks. That's the sort of thing I'm talking about. I'll just type it in. That's my favorite. And it's particularly good when you want to give it things like a role. You want to explain what the circumstances are. You want to say what you're trying to achieve out of it, what the task or the tone is. But I reckon I'll just type what it is in the chat. But that's the one that I was taught, and I really like that one. Yeah. But you still then convert you then convert your prompt into Markdown as well anyway. So whatever your prompt is, you then need to convert it into that sort of. It's a bit like HTML, isn't it? Where one hashtag is the equivalent of an H1, 2 is equivalent of an H2. So if you were writing a document in Word, you can choose a big heading, a little heading, and an H1, an H2, and H3, and it just gives prominence. And so it allows the AI to know what the most important factors are.
Yeah, 100%. And when I use models in agents through APIs, I will often use a form of Markdown and XML prompting to just give it the context in a simpler format as the tool will understand to be able to get the prompt out. But there's no good or bad prompting in particular. What it's important to keep in mind is that we need to find the most relevant way to get the outcome that we want. There are some examples of what would be better than others. So for example, I don't like the term bad prompting, but make this better. You could change that to be rewrite this in a more formal business email, write a story, write a 300-word story about a robot dog, summarize this into 5 bullet points. We're giving it slightly more context here just to get a slightly better answer out. So, but there's not, I don't think there's good and bad, but I think there is ineffective prompting that comes from not understanding the type of prompt that we're using. Even generic sort of zero shot, I mean just a single question you're throwing out there, no context, you just want an answer back. Even that has its place. I'm not saying, for example, that A and B question that I had earlier with that massive prompt is always the way that we should be doing things. It just relies on what we want out of it, the context and the question that we're asking as to how specific we want to get with it. I had my son ask me the other day random questions, as 5-year-olds ask, how long would it take to count to 3 trillion? So I asked ChatGPT, how long is it going to take? I'm not going through and writing an essay on how to structure that answer and get the answer out that I want. I just asked it the question. Zero shot question.
Doesn't surprise me that Leo asked you that question.
Yeah, one of the hundreds that I could go through. But if you want to create a legal document, you want to use something more specific, maybe Markdown prompting, so that you get specific answers out. So it's not a one case fits all. It's down to the question that you're asking it. How much freedom do you want to give this tool? How much do you want to restrict it? If you want to restrict it, in what way? What kind of output do you want? Specifically, that's really important when it comes to things like if you're in the world of data and data cleansing, or you've got a spreadsheet that you want to fix, giving it really specific instructions. This is column A, this is column B, this is what you will need to do. In column A, you need to replace this for what might be in column B. If you've got, we do a lot of cleansing with data feeds and product information, and when you've got a huge database and you want to say, for example, fill in category pages, telling it specifically where it can make stuff up or go and just create something, or where specifically it has to use a certain type of response in the product category, really helps in just getting a clean set of data out of it.
And we're a little bit behind on time, so we're going to need to
yeah, sure, let me skip through. I think this is more or less a repeat. We'll go through prompting styles later. The tips are, give it lots of information. You can always take a screenshot. I do this all the time with context. If I'm asking a question and I'm too lazy to type it in, as long as there's no data that's in the screenshot that you're sharing, take a snapshot of it, upload it to Claude or ChatGPT and say, this is the context of what I'm working in. I can take a screenshot of this slide and say, I want you to enhance this slide, rather than copy and paste the content. I can just take a snip of it. This is the custom GPT that we've got for advanced prompting. I've created this, so it's an ongoing project of things that I build out. But basically, if you have a ChatGPT account, you can scan this, you can use our prompt architect. It'll ask you questions. What's the role that you're trying to make this for? What's the context? It'll walk you through all those steps to create a markdown prompt. And then once it's produced that, it'll either say, do you want to use this prompt now and go ahead and use it in this chat window, or do you want to copy and paste it? Do you want it in markdown format? Do you want it in XML? So it just speeds up that process of creating a context-rich prompt. Now, I was going to show you something else that's happened in ChatGPT. I don't know if we've got time for that, Anna.
Yeah, I would do that now, because I think what I'd quite like to do, I think we're not going to get much time for Copilot, so it might be better that...
That's okay, we can do vibe coding and then do Copilot on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So this is, I'll just show this quickly. This is something new that's just released for ChatGPT. It's a video, so I'm hoping that video shows. This is called Agents, and it's the first example. It's kind of beta testing at the moment, but it's been live in ChatGPT for a couple of days now.
You might need to make your screen a bit bigger. There's a couple of arrows. Can you explain what's going on while you're doing it?
Yeah, I will. So can I pause it? So yes, I can. Oh. Yes. So what it will do, this agent, is it will complete a task for you in its own, we call it headless browser, but basically it's its own version of a web browser. It takes a question, it loads up its browser, and it tries to complete an action for you. Now, I've been testing this, and I've been testing this with, quotes, difficult programs, because I'm pretty sure that it could go onto the web and use Google and then answer questions that I've got, and it can pretty much do that anyway. They state that it can do things like reserve rooms for you, so it can go on hotel websites.
And then they had an expensive version of this called Operator, didn't they? And this is the, but you can get this in the $20 a month version.
Yeah, so I'm using this for CMAP. Now, CMAP is our project management platform. It's custom to us. It's difficult to use if you don't understand the context, and that's why I'm using that, because I really want to test it and see. But you can start to see how they're getting into the world of having agents that work alongside you to complete tasks for you while you're working on other things. So it's that next iteration for AI. So I've asked it here basically to create a report for me in our CMAP system. And I've asked for available, so we can get staff availability for us, for our teams. So I've said, go into CMAP and find the staff availability for our teams. So I said, okay, I'll do that. So it's loaded up its browser. It takes a few seconds for the browser to show to the user. Here it is. What it's doing here, it's been immediately presented with an issue, which is a pop-up, and it needs to navigate to that pop-up. So it's learning the context. It's trying to click on the reports tab, but it can't do it because there's a pop-up in the way. It then figures out that there's a pop-up in the way, so it says no thanks. That closes that, and it's saying at the same time, okay, I've clicked no thanks, and now that pop-up's gone. It's then going to reports. It's clicking on reports because it thinks that's the first place to look for the staff availability report. It's saying, I think I'll click on standard reports because that's probably where it's going to be. And then it enters our reports page. It then looks for something along the lines of availability of staff report, scrolls down the page, finds the report, and then it boots it.
Did it have to log in?
Yes, so it obviously doesn't have your credentials as standard, so it will ask you to log in, and it's a two-way thing. So if it gets to a screen where it needs your help, it'll stop and it'll say, well, you need to log in because I can't get past this screen without logging in.
And can you click on this screen to make it enable it to log in?
Yeah.
So it's an interactive browser. It's not like just a window to what it's doing. You can actually engage in that window.
Precisely, yeah. And then it found it, and then it produced it. So it says it can do things like sort your emails. So if you give it your email access, now I wouldn't suggest you do, but you can give it email access, and it will go.
I think it could write my NAN automations for me.
Yeah, potentially. I don't know what the limitations of it are, but I think they are quite limited at the moment. I've seen it make a lot of mistakes. I'm also testing it with bot filters. So, you know, when you have to click 5 trains in a picture, see if you can get past those types of things. And it does a pretty good job of it, which is quite scary. So, yeah.
Right, let me share my screen.
Sorry, if you couldn't see CMAP, that was slightly intentional, just because there's some information in there. I was just kind of showing how it does it rather than the information.
And there are some other international. So Manus has got something similar. Perplexity. Manus is the big Chinese one that was released recently. Perplexity's just released something called Comet. Claude has got its own sort of version of Operator as well, hasn't it? So there's lots of different things going on. Okay, what I want to show you is something called my AI agent marketplace. Now, this is a work in progress. And if I just go to the homepage a minute, so this is going to be on our main website. And this is a website explaining our AI projects. There's a few things there. I need to add a new image in there. Some of the agents that we've been building or planning to build, some courses, etc., etc. Some reviews. These are false. These are not the real ones. And then it's got things like a form to get in touch. There's a login so you can subscribe. It's not linked to Stripe yet, but you've got a basic sign up, which you guys can take advantage of. And then it's got a marketplace. Now, this is what I want to show you. Now, I want to just explain that I've built the whole of this website without having any coding knowledge at all. I'm going to quickly go down to the marketplace. So you can do some searches there if you want. I'm not actually sure if that's working. But I've created this shopping directory of different types of agents. And some of these are live, so you can go and use them. So if we go to the free agent, and the reason I want to use this as a link between prompting and vibe coding is because if I choose one of these, so if I chose, this doesn't look like this is the most recent version. Let me just go out a second. Just going to refresh this. I've actually got 20. Going to log in. I've actually got 20 agents. So that's weird. Let me just go into the view details on this one. So can you still see? Okay, so this is an example of I don't know why I can't get rid of that. This is an example of the blog content writer, and this agent is live. Although I'm now wondering why I've got an old version of the website live at the moment, so I'm going to need to go and check that. And if I go to, you get one free go, and then if you want to use it more than once, at the moment it's 25 users a day. That will go down, and then if you want unlimited use, you have to pay. But this is a blog content writer tool, and basically what happens is this explains how it works, how many users you've got today, and then you can just hit start now. And this uses a form. Now, the first form is so that you can get sent the content that you're going to create. And then the second form allows you to enter things in that will help you actually create the prompt that is used to then create the content. So let's have a look here. So if I do AI for marketers, and then if I've got a draft, I can load it. I can choose how long I want the article to be. I can choose the type. So I want it to be a technical, commercial article. Topic of the blog is how AI is used for everyday marketing jobs. I want to get the spelling right, although it will correct it if I mess it up. Who my target audience is. So I'm particularly interested in e-commerce managers, but you can write whatever you like here in the UK. Any additional information, any supporting material. So this is where you put your brand guidelines. But we're going to ask a little bit more about that. Any SEO keywords, AI in marketing, AI for copywriting. Oops, not sure what happened there. AI for research, etc., etc. Tone and style. So I'm going to go through authoritative expert, select an option, persuade to convert, and I'm actually going to write UK English in here as well. I'm going to write UK English in here because I don't want American spelling. Then I submit this. So if you can imagine, if I'd actually written that out into a really long prompt, that would have taken me quite a long time. But I've also trained the AI to come up with the information that I require, and that is then build in the answer for me, and it will appear in a minute as HTML within this space, and it will also appear in my emails as well. So just wait for that to work. Hopefully it's running okay. Now, in the meantime, what I'll do is I'll show you how I built this, but I'm going to show you a little mini version. Yep, there it is. There we go. So it takes about a minute to it. So your blog, AI marketing, revolution UK e-commerce for growth. So AI marketing, target audience. My topics are e-commerce strategy, digital transformation, AI marketing, revolutionizing everyday jobs for e-commerce marketing, marketing beyond the hype, AI for copywriting, product descriptions, email personalization, blogs for research, market competitor research, predictive analysis, sentiment analysis, streamlining everyday tasks, personalization, customer experience, predictive analytics, optimizing ad spend campaigns, automating customer service and support, enhancing SEO and content strategy, challenges and considerations, data privacy, ethical use, skills gap. There's no way that if I asked exactly the same thing, you know, oh, it's got your title, description. So if I asked, now I think this is actually using Gemini, because Gemini is capable of taking in quite big documents. But if I just go to a new chat and give me ideas and a blog structure for a UK article, a UK blog on that. So first of all, I'd ask it for ideas, proposed structure, AR powering growth, AR e-commerce marketing, choosing the right AI tools for your business, risks, how to get started, and then please, yeah, that's great. Please write this blog. Then this will not be in the style I wanted. It won't necessarily be in the length that I wanted. So you can see, but just by using a form where you've provided all that information, you can get a much better response. So I just see if I can get you the most latest version. Yeah, so for some reason, the other version, oh, that's strange. Something strange has gone on. I'll need to, maybe it's because I'm logged in, but there should be 20. So I'll go and check that. But the ones that are working are the blog writer and the meeting notes writer, which should be down here somewhere. Yeah, those are the two ones that are live. The rest we're working on at the moment. So I'll quickly put them in the chat, and then I'll show you how vibe coding works. Ready for, give us some feedback on this if you like it, because it's still in development. So I'm just going to go to Lovable first. So I would normally write a prompt to decide what I want. And actually, when I do it, I write something quite, I write a brief. So please create a prototype of a website marketplace that can sell my AI agents. such as AI for blog creation.
I think one of the things that this is really good for, in fact, two things, I guess. The first one is prototyping. So if we're with a client and there's an idea being thought up around a website or an idea, you can quickly prototype that in a couple of seconds and give a general kind of preview of the idea live while you're talking to that client or having that idea. The other thing that's starting to become quite clear from this is that as these tools become more developed, SaaS products like reporting tools, the type of software that we use day in, day out for our roles, people are starting to be able to create these through vibe coding and do it themselves. And there's a bunch of different things, like, for example, timesheet collection that we use at Anicca. There's a question now whether we actually buy something off the shelf or just create something ourselves that fits that purpose. So I think it's going to shift quite a lot of industries.
Yeah, I mean, we were doing a project for my course, and this was use Go Viral AI's insight to discover social content before it breaks. So this is start a free trial. Our customers go, again, see the same images are used. Stop chasing trends. And basically, if I go back up the chat history, so I can look at the preview of this, and then I can also look at the code behind it. And it's written all this code. But you don't need to understand code in order to be able to write it. But if I go back, yeah, so so what I would do is, can you left justify the logo in the top navigation and take away the text next to it? So you can see the sorts of instructions that you can do as you're building it. As I go through and ask it to do things, change. So this was just something in, so if I go back to the image and I just want to say how, okay, so use Go Viral's AI insights to discover social content before it breaks. That was because of the logo there. But then if I wanted to go through to something like the pricing, I could say, let me just do an example. Change the basic pricing per month to $40. Okay, and that will then change it. There is a bit of an editing functionality that you can club here, but most of the time you're asking it to change it. Now, in order to do, so this is brilliant at the front end, but I have linked this to some additional tools. So you'll notice top here, so hopefully that's going to just change it live. So what it's doing, it's working on what you would call a sort of a development server or a local copy of the product. And I can see the full thing by just clicking on here. So I can see what it looks like in the full version. And I should be able to see the 40, you have to connect your project, the full version, but that isn't the version that's live. So the version that's live on the internet, you have to deploy it. And it deploys through a third party called Netlify, which I'll show you in a minute. Whoops, it's going to be annoying now. So hopefully that will show you what it looks like there. And the reason I'm doing this now is because I'm waiting for Lovable to process. Let me go back. It's going to just take forever. So in theory, what you can do is, for some reason, it's just being a bit annoying. It should show me the preview in a full screen. And then if it says connect project again, then I'll go back to the other one. I just randomly chose this one of the ones that I'm doing. But I've used it exactly. I've got client pictures where I've done a look at their homepage, and then I've used a custom GPT to go and check that it is what the criticisms are, what the improvements can be made to that page. And then I've actually loaded that up as a PDF and asked it to come up with a new version based on how it could be improved. But if I go down here now it's now changed that price, and I just typed it in. But you notice this is also connected to Supabase. So that is an example of a database behind the scenes. And so that allows you to do things like set up logins, create accounts and things, and have tables. So if I just have a see, so this is what it's created for me over in Lovable. Literally just created it. Featured AI agents, Blogcraft, Meeting Minds, Analytics Guru, Schedule Master, etc. Now, if I go and click on Blogcraft, it should have also created me, hopefully, it's created me a landing page as well. If it hasn't, then it's not really done the job properly. But what you might have to do is, in order to do that, is can you now create me the individual pages? So let's ask it, can you now create me each of the individual agent pages? So you can imagine you could build a whole e-commerce website. So you can browse the agents. So it's got a little bit of a, I think that's just showing the same thing again. It may or may not have categories. I'll create individual agent page with information, pricing tiers, features, testimonials. So if you think it's just, I've just done this in 5 minutes. It has taken me a couple of months working on it part-time to create the full thing. But what you can also do on here is you can actually edit this as you go along. So you can inspect this and actually change individual parts, which is a little bit better than, it gives you a little bit better functionality and control. So if I go and, so it's basically creating these at the moment. So if I looked at the code, it's building the code live. That's not what I wanted to do. Sorry, I wanted to look at the code. So it's actually building these pages as and writing that code as we talk. Now I want to see what it looks like. I can't remember where to go. That's it. Right. So if I show you another one. So I can play around with this. I can change things. I can log in. I can create forms. I can create packages. So if you go back to my agent marketplace, which I'm now going to find out why it's changed overnight, because there was 20 agents there yesterday and there's only 9, which is very strange. All the time, every time I do anything, it's also the other thing it's doing is it's linked to something called GitHub, and GitHub is like a saving depository, which means that also you can use it. So if you think of it as sort of 3 stages, I will do a diagram for the workshop. You've got the make it part, the show it part, and then the publish it part. And then that just is the sort of the front end of it. And then behind the scenes, you've got the engine and the database that's actually driving all of this. So if you went into my, I'm not going to bore you with this bit, but if you go into the tables that I've created, I'm in the table of each of my different agents. So you've got my blog writer there. And that means I can go in and edit it as and when I want to. Okay, we haven't got much time now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the offer of the webinar course. I do recommend that you can go in and register for the whole thing, but I do actually recommend that you go on and register for the individual ones. So hopefully, if you click through to that now, you will go through to the landing page where you can register. If you can't go to all 4 of them, just register for the individual ones, and you can use that landing page as a sort of a guide. So if I click on it now, unfortunately, what will happen is I'll actually I've got it open over here. Yeah, so you should click through to something that looks like that. I've actually registered, but you've got our image at the top. Then you've got a little bit about us, and then you've got each of the different ones. So if you just want to register for the practical prompting, then it has actually registered me for all of 4. Whereas if I'd gone in by just clicking it for the first time, I would have been able to click on that and then just register for that individual one. So hopefully that's okay. So hopefully we'll see lots of you in the next 4 Wednesdays. We better go and see if there's any questions. We didn't show them Copilot. I don't know whether we want to just show Pilot. Yeah, I think Lovable, and there's a few. There's Lovable, Bolt, Replicate. I prefer Bolt just because the functionality is a little bit better. Lovable, I think, is more popular, but you will get through the tokens very, very quickly. So if you're serious about doing this for building websites, you're going to have to pay for it. And also what I would recommend is another tool called Cursor, where it doesn't cost you as much to edit it at the back end, but you want to get sort of like a working prototype like I've done for the front end, and before you start worrying about things like linking it up to databases, linking it up to Stripe and stuff like that.
Do you want me to quickly, I can spend 5 minutes showing Copilot.
Yeah, I know some people might have to leave, but yeah, absolutely. I'll stop sharing my screen now.
Go live.
Oh, I brought the offer up, haven't I? Let me just pin it at the top just in case anybody missed it. I meant to do that. I think you can also access it where it's got handouts, it's got offers as well. So I know that confused some people earlier on. So if you missed it first time, you can get it top right.
So this is Copilot Studio.
How do you get to it, Darren?
It's on copilotstudio.microsoft.com. If you've got a Microsoft account, you should be able to access it. Now, Microsoft is typically complex. They hide features within features. Some features are disabled or no longer active. Microsoft is a beast when it comes to the amount of functionality that they have, obviously. And that can sometimes work against them. So it's not always the simplest thing to find. And then in addition to that, there is levels of tiers of subscriptions that you can have that allow you to do different things. I'm pretty sure Copilot Studio, if you have a work account paid for, you will get access to Copilot Studio, but you may in certain cases have to buy additional licenses. But I'm pretty sure this functionality as base level is free to use. When you get here, there's a bunch of different things. So you've got your home, you've got create, agents, flows, tools. For today, we're just going to create a simple agent. So if you go to create and then new agent, now this is why this is so simple, because it uses functionality of Copilot and its LLM model to help you produce an AI agent. That reduces the barrier somewhat, because rather than have to deal with what we deal with more complex agent building through n8n, where we're dealing with nodes and credentials and all these types of things,
which we will tell you about in the third one, won't we? Because we'll explain.
Course, yeah,
we'll build the same thing in Copilot, and then we'll build it in n8n to show you the difference.
But this one simply says, hello, tell me what you want to build and we'll get started. So I'm going to build an HR agent. It's going to have knowledge from a staff handbook, but you could include lots of different information that you want it to include. And the output of this that I want is that I want an agent that's populated in Microsoft Teams. So if someone has a question, I need to go to an eye appointment. Is that covered? I need to take some sick time. How does that work? You can they can ask questions to that, and it'll provide them answers. Maybe you could do something where if you've got new team members and they want to ask questions about how processes work or how the business is structured, what's the away day look like, all these types of things, include that information in it, and they can get answers really quickly for questions that they've got.
And do you use a prompt to help you write the prompt, or do you just describe
it? I do, yeah. So I would use my prompt creator and then just populate this. So I would use something like Claude, create the prompt, and then come in here. For today, I'm just going to do it, show you how simple it can be. So I want my keyboard's comically loud, so apologies. I'm just going to want to create an agent to support our teams with HR. This will answer key questions on things like sickness, policy, or process. Right, I'll just leave that. So it's going to go away now.
And you'd also say how you want the output to be, or would you do that later?
You can iterate, and it'll ask you questions as we go through that will help reinforce the prompt that we're using. So it says, great, your agent is now set up.
This is very similar to creating a custom GPT for the people that have not used custom GPTs, isn't it? You're doing
very similar. So it'll give you the stuff on the right-hand side, and it'll ask you more questions to help create a better agent on the left-hand side. You can keep using this as you go through. So I could say, for example, give detailed output from our handbook, add at the end the individual can contact Darren Wynn on. Let's just see what I didn't even read what it said, but I know I'm going to upload some content to it. I just want to get past this screen. So we'll let us see what this has built. You can keep going and iterating. Once you've finished, you can click create, and it'll go and it'll set up your agent. This only takes a couple of minutes. Once it's finished.
But you haven't loaded any content yet, though, have you?
No, I haven't. You can ask it to do it there, but I found it's easier just to go into the knowledge. So once you've created your agent, you'll get this screen pop up. This is where you test your agent on the right-hand side, and these are all the details of different things you can add. So and they also appear across the top.
This is better than a custom. I've not seen this before, guys. So this is better than a custom GPT.
Now I'm going to add knowledge. And I'm going to go to my computer and find an old version of our staff handbook.
And the reason it's free is because you're paying for Microsoft anyway.
Yeah, free in quotes.
And it's using the OpenAI because they're big investors into OpenAI, which runs ChatGPT. It's using the same really high-powered AI that we like. We don't dislike ChatGPT, by the way. It's just that for some of the things that we want to do, we prefer Claude.
No, I pay for ChatGPT. I like ChatGPT. If I've got a simple question, I'll always go to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is on my phone. It offers more flexibility, not just in terms of, but also APIs and integration, although other platforms now are able to do that as well. There's some simplicity in the UX that comes with ChatGPT that people just tend to gravitate towards. But I do find that answers are far better in Claude, and Claude just seems to understand how to write code. It seems to understand the context of questions far better, so you can make more mistakes in your prompt, and it's
better at writing as well, I think.
Better than writing.
It's got some other amazing features. It can create all sorts of visual artifacts. So we're doing a lot of flow diagram stuff, and it can create mermaid charts and all sorts of things like that. You can create mini apps.
Now, along the top, while this is loading, so I've uploaded a Word doc just with all of our staff handbook information. Along the top, you've got tools, so you can add tools to your agent. This is more complex, not something we can go into today, but you can add it to Excel in, so it can create Excel document sheets for you based on user input. You can use Model Context Protocol or MCP. So this is how it understands. It's given an environment where it already understands the context of the environment that it's working in, so it can get information quicker. So you're not feeding it static information. It's more live, and there's a couple of different things. For example, you've got DocuSign, you've got loads of different stuff there. Jira, if you use Jira, loads of different programs.
I don't even know what Jira is.
It's like a time project management platform.
Okay.
And then it obviously is connected to all of the Office platforms. So if you wanted to connect it to your SharePoint, you can do that, and it will have the.
And that's really good because it means you can search for files and organize your files and your email and stuff as well, can't you?
Yeah. You can also layer your agents, so you can have agents talking to other agents. You can click add here. If you want to start to get into more complex things, you may decide that one agent to get the information it needs has to go to another agent with different information to collate that all and bring it together. So you've got like a hierarchy of agents then working for you.
Well, they can work like a network as well, can't they? And or you can have a sort of a hierarchy in the sense of you've got a social media manager, for example. In AI agents, generally this is you'd have a social media manager, and then you'd have somebody that was was creating the content, then somebody posting to LinkedIn, posting to Facebook, etc. So you get these sort of departments of workers.
Yeah, and then you've got activity. So when you publish your agent, you'll get analytics through on how many times it's used. I would say, and I have warned our team about this, that if you create an agent, you can see the types of questions that are asking, how often they're being asked. So something like HR, it's general queries only. And when you're in testing phase, and these things can change as well, just make sure that you're advising people. You don't want to be putting personal information onto a chatbot like this. If it's something more sensitive, speak to someone. And you might want to train the chatbots to say that at the start, so that people don't get confused. Because when you publish this, I'll show you the analytics in a section in a second.
We probably should wrap up actually, because it's
okay. Well, let me show you just this
what it looks like in live.
You can then test it. So here's one, same process, just one I created, and then you can say, I'm going to be sick for a few days. What's the process? It will then go, it will have a look at the knowledge that you've updated, you've given it, and it's going to then come back and say, this is the process. It will provide, hopefully it will here, not always, excerpts from where it's got that information from, so people can do further reading, and then it'll give you the details. The other thing that I've tried this with is uploading live product databases that I've for testing generated myself, and then I've imagined a scenario where you've got a customer service team that might be on Teams that want to know how many chest of drawers have we got in stock at the moment, or whatever the product might be, and the AI agent can go check the database and come back, or give you product information so people can correspond with it that way. Different use cases based on different things, and then you can plug this into your SharePoint. You can plug it into Teams, so it comes up as a little chatbot in Teams, so people can chat to it like they're talking to anyone else in your team, and they'll be able to get the responses you want.
Brilliant. Thank you, Darren. That was really educational for me, because I hadn't seen that before. So we've still got a few people left in the room, so thank you very much for hanging on. One of the issues on security is Copilot's a little bit more secure than some of the others, which is why some people have been forced down the use, but it is getting to the point now where it's actually quite usable, where for a long time it was way behind a lot of others.
Yep.
That's it, guys. I'll stop recording. So hopefully if you still want to sign up, please do. We'll see you on Wednesday. We still are running the Friday morning webinars, though they're sort of more digital marketing, but I couldn't resist the AIGust or AIGust. I still don't know how to pronounce it. It's a bit like Oktoberfest and November, this is going to become a thing. All right then. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.